Thank you, Cathaoirleach. I welcome the opportunity to speak tonight on our first private member's bill for the new Dáil as Social Democrats, and I'm delighted to be in a position to contribute to the debate as a Social Democrats TD for Wicklow. Our motion recognises first and foremost the incredibly important role essential workers in many different sectors have had in giving us certainty and the safety we craved during COVID-19. Be they our local shop assistants, our care assistants, our waste collectors or our takeaway deliverer. They all had to navigate the unpredictable and uncertain nature of working under COVID-19 so that we didn't have to. We recognise and acknowledge the valuable contribution these workers make to the fundamental running of our economy. But now that the roadmap to exiting COVID-19 is underway, we need to face a hard truth in this country. We have relied on some of our most precarious and lowest paid workers to keep the country going during this crisis. The fact is, many essential workers are in low paid and precarious jobs. They lack decent wages, statutory protections and the certainty that most of us take for granted. But praise and gratitude are not enough. Workers deserve a living wage, a decent standard of living, statutory protections and the right to collective bargaining. The state can no longer take advantage of these workers, and it is for these workers and their families that we have tabled this motion today. The structural problem of low pay in the Irish economy is also a gendered one, and I want to use my time today to focus on this aspect of low pay and workers. According to a 2016 task report, 29% of female workers are in low-paid jobs in comparison to 19% of male workers. And 46% of these women are the main earner in their household. Just think, who minds your children when you earn a decent living, or who educates them? Who nurses your sick elderly parent, or who cares for a loved one in a hospital? They are primarily women, and they make up a large proportion of the workers who have kept this economy running while we were safe and protected in our homes during lockdown. It is no coincidence that the sectors experiencing chronically low pay are those made up mostly of female workers. Governments past and present have devalued care in this country and have taken advantage of the competing demands on women's lives. It's no wonder that female workers make up over half the workforce earning the national minimum wage or less at 55% compared to 45% of men. That's nearly 10% in the difference. Take the childcare sector, for example. Early childhood educators are amongst our lowest paid of all professional groups. A survey of over 3,000 childcare workers found that 94% of them cannot make enough money to meet their pay. They can't make their ends meet. Their average hourly rate for staff in the sector is just £12.55, and 90% of childcare workers question whether or not they have a future in the sector. And these are the people that we rely on to educate, to nurture the care for our children, and yet we don't value them enough to pay them a proper wage. And it's not just our children, it's also our elderly and our vulnerable. According to CSO figures, women represent 80% of healthcare workers in Ireland. Low pay and difficult working conditions are plaguing the sector, particularly for home care workers. Most private home care assistants are qualified with a minimum of FETAC level 5, however the rate of pay average is less than the living wage. And these women have children too, families who depend on them for income and support. It's important that we acknowledge the impact low pay has on families because the two are interlinked. Female workers often need the flexibility of hours that come with low-paid jobs because they simply can't afford the high childcare costs. But flexibility suits the employer more than the worker. The casual nature of their work makes it very difficult to unionise, and with family in the background, the demands on women's time and energy makes them further disadvantaged. To add to the insecurity these women have to deal with, they are at increased risk of poverty, with no guarantee of hours or income from week to week, no sick pay, no annual leave and no pension entitlements, leaving them open if circumstances change. Governments past and present have presided over many policies that consistently left behind women who work in these sectors. It's time to break this cycle of discrimination and establish a task force so we can move forward towards a living wage, enforce more rights for workers with better paying conditions and include the right to unionise. Thank you.